Like 60-something, right?
No, he's older than that. By the way, she looks fantastic.
How old?
He's 65.
65.
She looks great. Do you think that,
They have a kid together.
yeah, do you think they think alike? Because we all know what Mel Gibson thinks. Because he...
some stuff. I mean, we've heard.
Yeah, we've heard. I just wonder if she got over that or if...
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful April the 27th, 2021. Brando Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's warming up to draft night. We're only 2 days away from the NFL taking control of the sports universe once again. And all those young men in Cleveland will become instant millionaires, Charlton. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They'll be there to give us some smelling salts, Charlton, once they pass out from all that money.
Cleveland, this is for you. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He will do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. A lot of new millionaires going to be pausing very soon, but we'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, as President Biden gets ready to address his 100 days in office in 2 days, the same day of the draft, Charlton, we need to address the issue about the great veterans that have served this country. I know they're near and dear to the President's heart because his sons have done the same thing, Charlton, served this country admirably. But unfortunately, Charlton, we lose some 24 veterans a day to suicide, a very horrific disease that has not been addressed in American society. And hopefully that will become part of his speech, Charlton, in his first 100 days of office, how to help remedy this disease that has ripped through our great veterans of this country. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, but it has become a pandemic in everyday members of society as well as our military members, Charlton. So all Americans need to address this issue. Why do we get a chance to live so comfortably? Because of our great veterans. And we need to do what we can as a country to protect their sanity.
Very well said. I was at a gas station today. I was getting ready to walk in. There was a man right in front of me. He turned around and opened the door and let me go in first. He had one arm, Big C, and he had a military hat on. I just said, thank you, God bless you. It's all fair and love and war. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley, home with weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Viewers, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run King Barry Bonds. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to help put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it, sports teams do it, watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country. on the wholesale side. They're also going to be doing the hosting of the NFL Draft. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like God said. Let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and all around the world, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Big C, I know that you're loving the NFL Draft. I know it brings back memories, but I'm gonna start off talking about some basketball, because basketball right now, they're past the point of what did Janet Jackson say, what have you done for me lately, Big C? There's a lot of good old boys that are starting to flex their muscle right now in the world of the NBA. I want to get into 10 players in teams and coaches, Big C, with the best chance to rewrite the historic history, Big C, amid some chaotic and unpredictable NBA seasons. In the history of the league, it has been as much about those that never did as much as it was about those that got there. And with injuries that we've seen this year, anything can happen. And the upside and the down year that could be the best chance for several teams and players to claim it and rewrite their history, Big C. I'm going to give you 10 players, and I want to get Big C's thoughts. Number 1, in the universe, the great Chris Paul, known as CP3, the most talented traditional point guard since the great Isaiah Thomas, led the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys, Big C, to back-to-back NBA championships. That was 3 decades ago, Big C, but he's only a single conference finals appearance to show for it with a ring. And the story of Chris Paul is that one of the greatest point guards in history, today is his big chance this year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he pulled out that rabbit out of a hat last night in Madison Square Garden, Charlton, when you look at the performance that he put on against the New York Knicks. You're talking about the most influential player this NBA season, Charlton. It has been Chris Paul. When you think about the rise of the Phoenix Suns, they're one game out of the Western League for being the best team out in the West, and that's because of Chris Paul. When you look at the accolades that he has achieved this season, Charlton, in leading this young team, I mean, I don't know how he doesn't finish in the top 2 or 3 as far as the MVP voting. Yeah. But Chris Paul has been a man amongst boys this year.
Yeah, he really is. He's like the mystic on the basketball court, Big C. Number 2, sometimes when you don't feel well, you just need to call the doctor, Big C. The Philadelphia 76ers, they call the doctor Doc Rivers. He's an NBA champion. He sits at the helm of arguably the Eastern Conference best team in the Philadelphia 76ers. He's a coveted coach, Big C, who's recruited from the top job from another team to this team now. He was with the, he normally couldn't get it done with nobody's really got it done when you think about the Clippers, Big C, but he's a coveted coach who's recruited from the top to another job. He desperately needs to have a second ring to prove that his Celtics title, that one in retrospect, it feels like it was too few, that he could have had more. We want to make sure that he's celebrated and not someone that people consider who underachieved, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's ironic in professional sports, Charlton, when a black coach only wins one championship, they say that he's lucky. Yeah. When a white coach wins one championship, they say that, he's one of the best of all time. Yeah. Doc Rivers has been consistent in his coaching career and playing career in the NBA. Unfortunately, he's run against some hot teams during his tenure as a coach. He lost in the finals to the Lakers, so he's been to the championship more than one time, Charlton. You look at the team that he had with the Clippers. Yeah. It just happened to be the Warriors era out there. Now that he's moved back east, Charlton, and he's gotten the Sixers to one of the top 3 spots in the Eastern Division. Yep. And people are still trying to quantify him as not a solid NBA coach.
Now, he's just what the doctor ordered, basically, the great Doc Rivers. Number 3 on that list, the great James Harden, was going to be the MVP. But for some reason, sometimes things happen. Bad news came Tuesday. Harden had aggravated his hamstring, Big C, and he's going to miss more time, perhaps until the playoffs. But if he returns, healthy, the Nets may win it all. It won't matter. He'd have teamed up with the great Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, Big C. Durant, who couldn't hold his own in the 3-1 series lead against Golden State Warriors. That was in 2016, Western Conference Finals. The winners get to write history. And when you think about Harden, he could use that magic pen to tell a story that's not about one of the most talented scorers in the game's history, Big C. But when you think about what he's done, forgetting about how to shoot the big games and make the big basket in the big playoffs, sometimes Durant hasn't been able to do that, and Harden has his chance this year, hopefully, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the trifecta that they have there with the Nets, Charlton, you have Kyrie, who picked up a ring. a la LeBron James.
Yep.
You have Kevin Durant, who picked up a couple of rings, a la Steph Curry and Draymond Green. But, now that James Harden has a chance to be part of that trifecta to win a ring, Charlton,
Yep.
he becomes the third of that threesome to have a chance. He was in that first run with Kevin Durant in OKC. He has not made the championship round of the NBA since then, Charlton. But this is his best chance to get back to the top of the mountain.
Best chance to get back to the top of the mountain, Big C. Number 4 on that list, Dollar Dame. Hulu does have live sports. Damian Lillard, outside of the great Chris Paul. Lillard kind of feels like the most talented NBA veteran to not yet have won a championship. Unlike Paul, he's been that, he's the most important player on the team. He did lead the team to a conference finals back in 2019, and they got swept at the hands of the Golden State Warriors, Big C. That was 2 years ago. It's a little bit bittersweet for Dame, but you think about it, the continuation of the kind of history that's reminiscent of how Jordan destroyed Karl Malone's place in history and the great John Stockton's place in history. Again and again, Big C, the Warriors have faced Lillard, Portland Trailblazers in the playoffs, Big C. When you think about it, they are 12-1 in that stretch. Golden State, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Golden State has made it hard for everybody in the Western Conference, Charlton, over the past several years. But I think Damian Lillard makes it hard on him own self, Charlton, when you think about how he does not bring continuity to that Portland Trailblazers team.
Yeah.
I always look at him as the Achilles heel of that organization. Because everyone has labeled him as a superstar, he feels that he does not have to incorporate.
All right, Big C, we were having a little bit of problem with the phone line. It's a lot like the same phone line that Dollar Dame was having trouble with when he got into the playoffs, mentioning that they had a hard time holding off the Golden State Warriors, and then their phone line went down just like sometimes their playoff seasons ended, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I've always looked at Dollar Dame, Charlton, as being the Achilles heel of that Portland Trailblazers franchise. I know the media likes to label him as a superstar, but Charlton, I think he takes his teammates out of the continuity of the ebb and flow of their offense on a more regular basis than what he brings them into them. Because of his propensity to shoot the ball from long distance all the time, Charlton, that makes his teammates not willing to hustle all the time.
Yep, I think so. Sometimes they sit back and watch him shoot 40-footers as opposed to driving to the paint and kicking it out. It's all fair and love and war. Number 5 on the list, Big C, the Boston Celtics, the great Boston Celtics, celebrated leadership that is not directed at the young core of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Their time could still come, Big C, but the halo around the great Danny Ainge, who played with the Robert Parrish, who played with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, played with all those great players, Big C, and the surety of greatness directed toward the great Brad Stevens. His coaching acumen, it seems a bit stained at best, but you have the great Johnny Most that Danny Ainge is still thinking about, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I put Danny Ainge in the same level that I put Doc Rivers. They both won a championship together there in Boston, but, they've both had some misfortune since they parted ways. They've gotten close, Charlton, but they have not been able to find that four-leaf clover, neither one of them, Charlton. But the Boston Celtics are always a team on the rise. They revamped themselves with a lot of young players.
Yep.
Do they have enough fortitude, Charlton, and mental toughness to get to the finals?
Yeah, that leprechaun, and they need that floor that was uneven at the old Boston Garden, Big C. There was a leprechaun sighted in Boston Garden many, many times, Big C. It's all fair, love, and war. You look at number 6 on the list, the LA Clippers. They're the Clippers. They have the claw. They have Paul George. They keep recycling coaches in and out of there. They have a very wealthy owner, Big C. They're even going to move to Inglewood, but will they move there with a trophy, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the Clippers are what the Clippers are. Always the second or third best team in the state of California. I don't know if they have enough horsepower to challenge anybody for a championship. They have a couple main players, but they've had that for the past several years. But they always disband those players, Charlton, because they're underachievers.
They're underachievers, Big C. And they got the claw, they got Paul George, and they got a billionaire, but the billionaire's not playing in the game. It's all fair. Number 7 on the list, Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. He's a 2-time NBA MVP with an alarming, though short postseason track record, Big C. They keep knocking him out like a buck gets knocked out. He's also at the helm of a balanced basketball team that will have Drew Holiday in this postseason and the scars and heartaches of the last 2 seasons. The playoff failures, Big C, those used to be teaching moments. Just like Michael Jordan getting beaten up by the bad boys, that was a teaching moment, Big C. Has Giannis done the same? It looks like a lot of failure at first, but really the lessons taught could eventually lead to an NBA championship. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Giannis has done all he could, Charlton, to help the Bucks get over the hump. It's those second and third role players that they have on the roster that have not been able to accomplish him in the playoffs. Middleton is the key to this lineup, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's going to have to average at least 22 points a game in the playoffs for the Bucks to make it to the final.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. The bad thing about a buck, when NBA players, they get a buck in their sights, they want to take it out, Big C. That's been happening to the Bucks when they've been in the sights of a lot of NBA players. The number 8 on the list, the Utah Jazz, Big C. There's real history of NBA championships, largely stemming from a pool of teams that finished the regular season in the top 10 in offensive defensive ratings. Two of those teams this year, the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, they fit that statistical pattern, Big C. But in the Utah Jazz, fourth in both offensive defensive ratings, who dominate both the fronts, Big C. They're the NBA's best team by their record, and the fact, Big C, they have been so good this year. And yet all season there's this feeling, just a feeling, Big C, that in the background you have the Lakers or Clippers. All right, really the Jazz can impress. The Nets would eventually check with Utah, with some reality. A championship could exercise all the passive-aggressive doubts that directed his way when you go back to the days of the great Karl Malone and Stockton, Big C. Perhaps remove some of that sting that comes with the ghost of Michael Jordan's past. What could have been Stockton and Malone, they were great until the new sheriff came to town by the name of Michael Jordan. Will it happen again, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I think when you look at Utah, this is a team that has mental lapses from time to time. You talk about the best defensive team in the NBA, they are, but periodically, Charlton, they lapse on some assignments and give up easy buckets to opponents, just like they did last night. When Gobert vacates the middle and gave Young an easy layup,
That's right.
And Denver took a loss last night.
Yeah.
This is what they cannot afford in the playoffs. Everybody has to be mentally on the same page.
They got to be on that same page. Speaking of that same page, number 9, the great Denver Nuggets, Big C, a great coach. Soon to be, maybe, in some people's opinion, MVP Nikola Jokic. And some people say, oh, that's a joke. You're just joking. He may not be the MVP. It's all fair level war. They have a ton of depth, Big C. We know Murray's out of the season. And then they had a run last year in the Western Conference Finals, but that was because Murray was there. But the absence of Murray is a crushing loss. But this season may still offer an opening if the Lakers' injury woes continue. And given the Denver Nuggets' first-hand experience with not having to utterly live in the fear of the Clippers, why not another deep drive? Why not a magical run? Why not climb that mile-high city, Big C? Your thoughts?
I mean, everybody looks at Jokic, who should be the MVP of the NBA this year, Charlton. He's not a highlight reel. He's just the most consistent player in the league, and that's what wins you MVP as an individual award, Charlton. But Michael Porter Jr. is going to be the key if they continue on and have success in the playoffs. Yes, they lost Murray, but Porter is a big mismatch for many NBA players, Charlton.
Yep.
And if you can get he and Jokic combined in that lower post, Charlton, getting 50 points a night for the Denver Nuggets, they're going to be held in the playoffs. And this team, the way they play, they're not sneaking up on anybody, Charlton, but they can dominate a few teams in the West.
Yeah, they're trying. But I'm going to say the great Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. But I want to tell you, there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Steph Curry, number 10 on that list. Don't laugh, Big C. Number 10, Golden State. A man has 3 rings, 2 MVPs, and he's not a guy that was married to 7 different wives in Hollywood, Big C. And you think about the Oscars last night or on Sunday night, but think about this. On all time, the top 10 list, at least for me in my opinion, but a championship this year, and don't laugh, in which the ultimate team star has to be a solo assassin, the great Steph Curry, a lackluster squad around him outside of Draymond Green, and the promised land, Big C. That's the stuff that should make even the most jaded NBA fans sit up and at least consider. Think about LeBron James versus Steph Curry debate. Consider this. A shocking championship run for the Warriors will give Steph and Curry 4 rings, as many as LeBron has, Big C, and would also come from a championship run more improbable and even more impressive than what LeBron James has pulled off. The fact that Steph Curry is doing what he's doing with a bruised tailbone, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Steph Curry has been a one-man show this year in the NBA, Charlton, leading the league in scoring and been uncanny from three-point range, setting all types of records. This guy, if anybody in the NBA can carry a team, he can do that, Charlton. If he can get a little more help from Kelly Oubre and a couple other more players on that roster, Charlton, who knows how deep the Warriors can go. Because in the playoffs, if you're a three-point shooting team and you get hot, the other team has worries.
Yeah, the other team has worries. And I know people might think, well, what are you even talking about Golden State being in the playoffs this year, Big C? They're going to be a playoff team. And all it takes is just to get hot. I keep thinking about as a team that knocked off the top seed in the Eastern Conference, Big C. At one time when they were playing that, but they knocked off the great Philadelphia 76ers. It's just a matter of, can you get in? That's the tough part, just getting in. I also want to look at some more NBA news, Big C. The great Devin Booker dropping 33 points in the Phoenix Captains trip to the East Coast. And they came back with a bag of money and some apples, Big C. That 118-110 victory on Monday night over the New York's favorite team, the New York Knicks. 9-game winning streak came to an end. Mikal Bridges dropped 21 points. The great Paul had 20. Derrick Rose is doing his thing, Big C. 22 points, 6 rebounds, even had 6 assists for the Knicks, who are on their longest winning streak since a 13-game late run in 2012 and 13 season. The great Julius Randle, maybe he didn't need enough apples. He only dropped 18 points, but was off from the start of most of the streak that got him going, Big C. He shot just 6 of 17, and then 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Didn't have his best game, but maybe he was afraid of Chris Paul, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they dropped the ball on the Big Apple last night, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you think about the New York Knicks having that tremendous winning streak, and here's a team just on the verge of getting into the playoffs after a 9-year absence. Everybody is looking forward to the Knicks getting there. But you also have to look at the upstart Phoenix Suns. This team is in second place, trailing by 1 game now, Charlton, to the
Yeah.
Denver Nuggets in the West. And
Yep.
Chris Paul put on an actual clinic last night in New York. He had 2 miraculous shots, Charlton. One a buzzer beater on a 2 that just a rainbow that he knocked in, Charlton. And later on in the game, he dropped the dagger on the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
I mean, the Knicks can't be smitten, Charlton,
Oh,
by
no.
what happened
Nope.
last night. If they continue on the streak that they're in, they're going to make the playoffs. But the Suns are even more impressive by challenging the Utah Jazz for first place in the West.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, there's something about Chris Paul. He's just always there. It's like the person that's always there. You can always count on the great Chris Paul. He's had a hitch in his giddy up years back, but that man has he has a fire that burns inside of him, Big C. Maybe that's why he's playing for the Red Hot Phoenix Suns. Big C, NBA basketball, the great DeMar DeRozan had 37 points, 10 assists, and the San Antonio Spurs, they outlasted the Wizards 143. It was 146-143 in overtime on Monday night, ending Washington's best 8-game winning streak. The great Bradley Beal, who was named Eastern Conference Player of the Universe in the NBA last week. Big C, when you think about how great he's been, had 45 points for the Wizards, but his three-pointer tip to force a second overtime fell a little bit short, as did Washington's chance to match a franchise-best winning streak. The great Dejounte Murray dropped 25 points, a career-high 17 rebounds. Keldon Johnson had 21 points, and Rudy Gay scored 17 for the Spurs, who've won 3 straight and 5 of the last 6. Big C, your thoughts?
I guess they've waken up the ghost of Greg Popovich, Charlton, and they can make a late-day dash for the playoffs. But you have to be impressed with what the Washington Wizards have done as of late. 8-game winning streak, Charlton. This is a team that was left out in the wasteland thinking that they had no chance at the playoffs. But right now, when you look at what Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook have done, along with Rudy Hachimura, Charlton, as of late, looks like the Wizards are going to sneak into the playoffs, Charlton, and we're going to get some playoffs in D.C.
Yeah, some playoffs in D.C., and the Wizards can sneak. They haven't been known to be sneaky, and those Wizards, like the Wizard of Oz, Big C, is all fair and love and war, but dropping 45 points and came up just 3 points short. It's all fair and love and war. NBA news, the great Michael Porter Jr. erupted for 31 points. Courtesy of a torch shooting night, Paul Millsap added in his 12 points in the fourth quarter, and the short-handed Denver Nuggets beat the Memphis Grizzlies 120-96 on Monday night. Your hope for the MVP, Big C, the great Nikola Jokic, he finished with 24 points, 15 rebounds for his league-leading 53rd double-double. I'm not talking about the one you get at the hamburger store, Big C. 53rd double-double. The Nuggets knocked off Memphis for a 6th straight time at home, and the Grizzlies winning last at the Mile High City was February 26, 2017. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, when you talk about the epitome of an MVP in the league, Charlton, Jokic's numbers speak for himself. If he was a black player in the NBA, everybody would say hands down.
Yeah.
He's the MVP with a 53 double-doubles on the season, Charlton.
Yeah.
How much more can you ask from an individual player in the NBA to produce other than what Jokic has done? And not just this year, Charlton. You got to realize he was second in the NBA last year in triple-doubles. So when you talk about the complete player playing a complete game, Nikola Jokic has done that. He may not dominate the highlight shows, Charlton, with dunk shots and three-point shots, but he dominates the stat sheet every night.
Yeah, and he's in the Mile High City. He's always relaxed. Maybe because he's so relaxed, people don't think he's as good as he is, but he really is doing his thing. Big C, also NBA news. The Timberwolves beat the Jazz for the third time this season. It was 105-104. The great D'Angelo Russell had a season-high seven 3-pointers, Big C, dropping 27 points. The great Karl Anthony Towns dropped 21 points and 11 rebounds as the Timberwolves, they rallied to beat the Utah Jazz 105-104. On Monday night, Big C, the great Mike Conley gave Utah a 104-103 lead with 6.4 seconds left. But Ricky Rubio, he found Russell in a layup in the ensuing possession, and then the great Conley lost the ball on a scrabble out of bounds, Big C, and the Jazz final possession as time expired. And nobody thought this would happen, but you always have a shooter's chance, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, a heart-wrenching loss for the Utah Jazz, Charlton. When you look at Rudy Gobert, who blew a defensive assignment, Charlton, and late in the game to allow Russell to get that uncontested layup to give Memphis Grizzlies the lead in that game, Charlton. But Utah still holds on to a slim one-game lead over the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, they do. I want to ask your thoughts on something. Not many people thought that the Suns would lose, 2 straight, but then they said, wait a minute, they're playing New York. Maybe they're going to lose 2 straight after they had lost to Brooklyn. But no one thinks that Memphis, they didn't think that game was going to happen where the Jazz lost, but it's just about possessions and having those possessions count for you. Tonight's NBA schedule, Big C, is a slighter schedule. OKC at Boston. You have Milwaukee at Charlotte, Big C. Charlotte can play some ball at home. Portland is at Indiana. Brooklyn's at Toronto, Big C. Minnesota is at Houston. And then Dallas, which they got beaten by the Sacramento Kings last night with the great Luka Doncic. They're at Golden State tonight, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is one of those games that could be an eventual playoff matchup, Charlton. But Luka Doncic against Steph Curry, I mean, you talk about 2 dynamic players that play both, their positions a little differently. Luka is more of a just straightforward ball player. Steph is a little more dynamic. Both of them can hurt you from 3. This is a pivotal game, Charlton, getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a pivotal game. It's all fair in Love and War. Can't wait until the Splash Man gets his brother back. It's all fair in Love and War when Steph Curry and Thompson are doing their thing next season for the Golden State Warriors. I want to just say congratulations to all of those great players in the NBA. You all deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, and it goes great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C Burger. You know who also deserves the Big C Burger? Women's basketball, Big C. When you think about it, sometimes you got to go back to school. A week after speculation about whether Baylor coach Kim Mulkey, Big C, would stay with the Baylor Lady Bears. They got robbed in the NCAA tournament. We saw that against the great UConn Huskies. But a program that she built into a powerhouse down at Baylor to one that needs this luster restored. The women's basketball does great with all these fantastic women players, but when you look at what she's done, Big C, she decided she's going to change the zip code on Sunday. Her decision to leave Baylor after 21 seasons, 3 national championships, has a major impact on 2 Power 5 conferences, Big C, provides a second act for head coach Mulkey, who will be inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame next month. She's turning only 59 years old in May, Big C. She grew up about 50 miles from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, home of LSU. She's going to be tough to deal with when she gets that team rolling in the SEC, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, the Tiger Nation is happy down there in Baton Rouge. And this had to be a hard decision for Kim Mulkey, who spent the last 21 years there in Waco, Texas, raised a family, took that program to national prominence, Charlton, 3 national titles, as well as every year she was making a trip to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But this is bittersweet. You go back home to where you were from. She won her first national championship as a player in the state of Louisiana, Charlton, at Louisiana Tech when she led the Bulldogs to a national championship.
Yeah.
So at 59 years of age, Charlton, she's talking about climbing the mountain all over again.
Yeah.
And the Tiger Nation is happy about that.
Yeah, they're happy about that. She knows how to coach and do her thing, and her girls are graduating too. That's always a great thing to happen. We're going to take this call, the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the sport in this country that some people said they would not watch because so many players said they were socially active. They didn't want to shut up and dribble, Big C. Would you believe the lowest rated NFL football game, it had higher ratings than the Oscars? We'll take the Big C Pause in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps that you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I was telling you, you know, the Oscars, people think the Oscars is a must-see. Everybody wants to watch actors and actresses do their thing, and I really appreciate it too. But there's something about NFL. It really is the #1 sport in the universe, and it gets the best ratings even for the worst games that even the Oscars got last night. But I want to take the time to get your thoughts, Big C, ranking the NFL's best draft picks of all time, top 5 at the #3 spot. Everybody's saying, who's going to be #1? Who's going to be #1? I want to bring up some #3 guys, Big C. Each and every year, you have a first-day draft decision will be made with the hopes of the future, in part because the success of the past. Not every rookie team pans out, Big C. They don't always pan out. Below, I'm going to bring you a couple of players. I want to get your thoughts on some all-time great players. #5, the great Joe Thomas, Big C. He was a tackle, 2007. NFL draft, round 1. #3 pick out of Wisconsin. Went to the Cleveland Browns. Played from 2007 to 2017, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Joe Thomas came out of that offensive line factory, Charlton, up there in Madison. And, you know, he never missed a day of playing in the NFL. This is a guy that was as consistent as clockwork, Charlton. During his decade in the NFL, he was one of the most dominant left offensive tackles in the league.
Yeah, he was amazing, Big C. 11 seasons. The first 10, he made the Pro Bowl. In 6 of those 10, Big C, he was a first-team All-Pro. And then 2 of them, he was a second-team All-Pro. 3rd round, Big C. Everybody's thinking about who's going to go in the 1st round. #4, the great Merlin Olsen, defensive tackle. 1962 NFL draft, round 1, Big C. #3 choice out of Utah State, a very small program. Played for the Los Angeles Rams from 1962 to 1976. Olsen entered the NFL in 1962 and immediately emerged as a dominant force on the interior of the Rams defensive line. He remained one until he retired. Let's start with the accomplishments, Big C. He accomplished so many great things, playing 15 NFL seasons, made the Pro Bowl the first 14 of them. 14 Pro Bowls, Big C, that remains an NFL record today. He shares it with the great Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Tony Gonzalez, and the great Bruce Matthews. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, those latter 4 that you named all played offense. Merlin Olsen is the only defensive player in NFL history to accomplish that. When you think about him arriving in Los Angeles, Charlton, as part of the fearsome forces.
Yeah.
Lamar Lundy, Deacon Jones, and that's the guy who lose me. He was a great actor, Charlton. But, you know, when you think about what the Rams possessed in that day is what every team wants now. Rosie Greer was that 4th member, Charlton.
Yeah.
What every team wants now as a defensive line. Combatants who can play every down, Charlton. You didn't have to rotate. There wasn't anything about specialty pass rushes because they could all do it. And they were one of the greatest foursomes in NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing going way back at how great the Rams were. And even when you look at them changing their uniforms around, they've had so many great players playing in that Coliseum. Now they're going to play, you know, they've been playing at SoFi Stadium. They're going to have maybe a packed crowd when the season kicks off this year. #3 on that list, Big C, the great Larry Fitzgerald, wide receiver, 2004 NFL draft. round 1, number 3 overall. The Pittsburgh team, Big C, that good old boy, they haven't been the same since he left the college football scene. Maybe outside of Tony Dorsett, maybe the most famous player, along with Donald, to come out of that, the big 3, Big C. Arizona Cardinals brought him in 2004, still playing, still making touchdowns, Big C. He ranked 2nd in the NFL history, 1,432 career catches, 17,492 receiving yards, and 6th with his 121 receiving touchdowns. His 5 100 catch seasons, Big C, 2nd all time. His 9 1,000-yard seasons are 4th. Perhaps the most impressive things about the great Larry Fitzgerald career as a wide receiver. He's basically had 2 different careers in 2 different receiver positions and dominated both roles, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, early in his career, he started out as a wideout. Latter part of his career, they switched him in the slot.
Yep.
And he's dominated both of those, Charlton. He epitomizes the ultimate team player. Larry Fitzgerald has done whatever the Arizona Cardinals have asked him to do to make that franchise better, Charlton. Talking about a gentleman and a scholar,
yeah,
that is Larry Fitzgerald. One of the most accomplished players on and off the field in NFL history.
He really is. And he's socially active. He's a very conscious player. Really appreciate what he's done in the world of the NFL, Big C. The great Anthony Munoz, number 2, a tackle, a behemoth of a man, 1980 NFL draft, round 1, number 3 out of USC. And think about what the Cincinnati Bengals did. This guy played at Moeller High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, when they were competing for national championships. Played for the Bengals from 1980 to 1992, Big C, through his 13-year career. The great Anthony Munoz. Now he's doing libation commercials, Big C. But Munoz made the Pro Bowl 11 times. He was a 9-time first-team All-Pro, which gives him so much more than all the other 3 players in the NFL history, Big C. The great Jim Otto, Jerry Rice each made it 10 times. With Ron Mix tied Munoz with 9. He made 2, think about this, 2 second teams as well, and was voted Walter Payton Man of the Year in 1991, NFL Offensive Lineman of the Year, 1981 and 1988, and the Players Association Offensive Player. Think about this, Offensive Lineman of the Year, Big C, 1981, 1985, 1988, and 1989, a member of the league's 75th anniversary team, the All-90s team, and number 12 on the NFL's 100 greatest players list, and he's just now getting a chance to make commercials, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at Anthony Munoz, Charlton, the Hispanic American, undoubtedly most dominant offensive lineman in the history of the NFL.
Yep.
His career was cut short because 2 of those years, Charlton, he missed with injury. So when you think about the dominance of an Anthony Munoz, many defensive ends, Charlton, on that day of playing the Cincinnati Bengals, wanted to call out sick that day. They wanted to take a time off. But Anthony Munoz epitomized what a great offensive lineman was, Charlton. He was excellent at his craft.
Yep.
And he led the Cincinnati Bengals to 2 Super Bowl appearances, Charlton. Unfortunately, they came up short against the 49ers.
Yeah, they came up short against, Montana and them good old boys, Jerry Rice and them good old boys with the San Francisco 49ers. It's all fair and level war. But I want to ask you one thing on Munoz. Nowadays, there's a guy that plays for the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield. He said he saw a UFO, Big C, and maybe he did. I guess somebody came out and confirmed it. Something dropped out of the sky. But think about what Munoz did. Baker Mayfield's made more commercials as a few years player than Anthony Munoz made all those years that he played in the league, Big C. Your thoughts?
Maybe, Charlton, that's the reason why Munoz is one of the greatest players of all time, and Baker Mayfield is still trying to find his way.
Well, maybe he's seeing UFOs. It's all fair and level war. E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home is all fair and level war, Big C. Number 1 on the list, and everybody has their own opinion about where this guy ranks in the world of the NFL, and maybe he quit too soon. Maybe he had enough money and didn't feel like playing anymore. But my opinion, people do what they want to do. But I think about the great Barry Sanders, Big C. Everybody has their own opinion about who the greatest is. But think about this. A running back in 1998, the NFL draft, round 1, number 3 out of Oklahoma State, Big C, the Cowboys, went to the Detroit Lions in 1989 to 1998. Think about what the great Barry Sanders, he's probably still running away from people, Big C, in 10 NFL seasons. Sanders led the league in rushing 4 times. He led it in rushing touchdowns once. He had total touchdowns and yards from scrimmage twice. He made the Pro Bowl in each of his 10 seasons. and was named a first-team All-Pro in 6 of them, Big C, and a second-teamer the 4 times he missed out. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1989, Offensive Player of the Year in 1994 and 1997, the MVP in 1997. He was all 1990s team, the NFL's 100 all-time team. At the time he retired, Big C, Sanders was second all-time on the NFL's all-time rushing yardage list, 15,269 yards. That feat was more incredible because of the fact that he's unofficially the NFL's all-time leader in negative carries with a total of 1,114 yards behind line of scrimmage and yard slots. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, Charlton, people will always look at the record book and try to determine, because you have a total yard accumulation, that you're the greatest back of all time in the NFL.
Yeah.
There are 2 backs that ride on Mount Rushmore in the NFL. That is the great Jim Brown.
Yep.
That is also the great Barry Sanders.
Yep.
Both of these backs, Charlton, are the NFL leading rushers in total yards per game. Both of them retired in their illustrious NFL careers, averaging over 100 yards a game on the ground.
Yeah.
Not total accumulative yards, Charlton, but averaging over 100 yards a game on the ground.
Yeah.
When you think about the productivity of a running back, and you can walk out there every game and make that check mark on 100 yards on the ground, that was the great Jim Brown and the great Barry Sanders.
Yep.
They're number 1 and number 2 on the Mount Rushmore of the NFL greatest back.
And they deserve the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. It goes great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol. It goes great with the Big C burgers. I'm sure Barry ate a lot of Big C burgers. I'm sure Anthony Munoz ate a lot more Big C burgers than the great Barry Sanders, but they sure have deserved a Big C, some fantastic football players. And I want to bring you into a player now, because I know they're doing all the talk about who's going to get drafted first or second in the NFL, and you know, Cleveland's going to have a good time welcoming in some of these great players in their careers, Big C. But teams calling about the great Julio Jones, you would think he would never be on anyone's trading block. The Falcons received a lot of calls about trades for Julio Jones, and can't happen before June 1st due to cap reasons. In regards, Atlanta's listening to on Julio Jones' calls, Big C. And why would it be post-June 1st move? If the Falcons trade him after June 1st, they save $15 million against the cap. If the Falcons trade him before June 1st, it would be $23 million against the cap, Big C. But I don't know why they would think about trading him anyway. He's just a team player. If a team acquires Julio Jones in a trade, it would owe him on his current deal in 2021, $15 million, 2022, $11 million, in 2023, $11 million. In 3 years, $38 million plus, Big C. This is why I think he shouldn't even be on the discussion of trading Arthur Blank. Jones has averaged 95.5 receiving yards per year per game. By far more than anyone in NFL history. Why is he on the trading talk, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's a 32-year-old wide receiver. Atlanta's a team that's going to have to get younger very fast. When you think about where they are with a new general manager and a new head coach, Charlton, they're looking to build a roster around the players that they want. Matt Ryan basically has 1 more year left in Atlanta as the starting quarterback, and he'll be either holding a clipboard or moving on. But Julio Jones makes sense to move. And there's a few teams, Charlton, out there that should be trying to acquire Julio Jones. When you think about a team like the Baltimore Ravens, how he would be a perfect fit. The Los Angeles Rams, Charlton, he can help out Matthew Stafford. And don't talk about him going to the Kansas City Chiefs, where you got the most dynamic offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
But Julio Jones, wherever he goes, and even Aaron Rodgers would love to see him up there wearing green across from Devontae Adams in Green Bay.
Yeah.
But if you can bring 95 yards of receiving as an average to an NFL team,
Average,
Charlton, that's playoff ready, you're ready to go to the Super Bowl.
Ready to go to the Super Bowl and win this time. If you have a quarterback with a 28-3 lead, 25-point lead, if he realizes just run the ball, it's not that heavy. It's all fair and level war, Big C. NFL top money earners. Money earning Mount Vernon, Big C. Each round of the NFL draft. The first, the highest one in the universe. Think about it. Number 1, Big Ben Roethlisberger, $253 million. He could eat a lot of Big C burgers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Ben Roethlisberger is in the latter part of his career, but he's made 3 Super Bowl appearances with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Charlton. He restructured his contract to make it more cap friendly so they can move forward in the future.
Yeah, they got to move forward in the future, Big C. The future's actually now, but they got him for one more year, Big C. Number 2, Drew Touchdown Brees decided to retire, but he made sure he had $269 million in paper bags, Big C.
The greatest second-round pick, Charlton, in NFL history is Drew Brees. When you think about what he accomplished with 2 different NFL franchises, with the San Diego Chargers prior to moving on to the New Orleans Saints, becoming the face of that franchise, and also the face of that state, Charlton, leading that team to his only Super Bowl championship. He retired at the end of this past season, but his accomplishments will never be forgotten about.
They'll never be forgotten about, Big C. Number 3, the great Russell Houdini touchdown Wilson, Big C, $162 million, and the Seattle's never looked back, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, when he thought about playing baseball, Charlton, he had to, put an X in that box and no, I'm going to play football because I think I can dominate that game. As a rookie out of North Carolina State, Charlton, he took over at the helm of the Seattle Seahawks, and they have never had a losing season since that point, Charlton. Also, he's provided 2 Super Bowl appearances for that franchise.
He sure has. Number 4 on the round, Big C. Number 4, you have the great Kirk Cousins, $140 million. Rumor has it, when he went to the team and met with the owner to sign the contract, he had a lot of paper bags. They said, what do you do with all those paper bags, Kirk Cousins? He said, I got to put this money that I'm going to steal someplace, Big C.
Well, your cousin has done well financially, Charlton, throughout his NFL career. Even though he has a losing record as a starting quarterback in the NFL, he has 140 million reasons to laugh at everybody else.
They said, what do you do with all those paper bags? He said, I got to put this money, I'm about to steal someplace. It's all fair and level war. Number 5 on that list, the great out of Stanford University, the Richard Sherman, Big C, $82 million, and he counted every penny of it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Not many people think of a 5th-round draft pick, Charlton, as being one of the highest paid guys in NFL history. But Richard Sherman has done that. A couple Super Bowl appearances with the Seattle Seahawks, another Super Bowl appearance with the San Francisco 49ers, Charlton. One of the best cover corners of his era.
Yeah, one of the best cover corners of his era. I want to jump to number 7, Big C. In the 7th round, the great Ryan Swaggy Fitzpatrick. I'm sure he played Miami Vice. $71 million, and he never stays in the same zip code too long, Big C. Your thoughts?
Not many people think, Charlton, that when you draft a quarterback in the 7th round in the NFL that he's going to have a long and illustrious career. But when you look at Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has played for, I believe, about 11 teams now in the NFL, and had success in every stop that he has made a comfortable living, Charlton, when nobody thought about him out of the Ivy League.
Nobody thought about him out of the Ivy League. I want to go to number 6 on that list. He does have 7 Super Bowl championship trophies. The great Tom Brady out of Cerro High School in San Mateo, California, by way of the University of Michigan, and nobody wanted to draft him. I think he went 199, Big C, in the late round, Big C, $263 million, and he's still trying to win another trophy, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick was drafted around after Tom Brady, so who says you have to be a number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL, Charlton, to find success at quarterback? I think the body shaming that was done on Tom Brady when he was coming out of Michigan, that everybody laughed at him, and by the time they stopped laughing, Charlton, the 6th rounders came up and New England said, okay, we'll take him. He's a throwaway. But that throwaway has thrown away a lot of defensive backs throughout his NFL career, Charlton, dropping dimes for touchdowns and 7 Super Bowl victories.
Yeah, and he said he had to stay skinny so he could fit all those future Super Bowl trophy rings that he was going to get off there. The great Tom Brady, nobody wanted to pick him, and now he has 7 rings. It's all fair level war. Major League Baseball, the great Buster Posey, 2-run homer, Big C. The Giants pounded the Rockies early. It was 12-0. Anthony Descani, Big C, pitched a 3-hitter. Eva Longoria had a 2-run double and an RBI single after sitting out 3 games with a sore left hamstring. And the San Francisco Giants, they routed, Big C, the Colorado Rockies. It was 12-0 on Monday night, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Giants might want to save a few of those runs, Justin, but I guess you take them whenever you can get them. Buster Posey was once thought about going to be a Hall of Fame catcher in the major leagues, but a gruesome ankle injury several years ago, Charlton, slowed his stride. Ava Longoria used to be the best third baseman when he played with the Rays, but these two have seemed to found a camaraderie there in San Francisco, Charlton, and propelled the Giants to a victory.
Sitting on the dock of the bay. What a great song. That team is starting to play like they want to get into the playoffs. I know they got to look at the Dodgers and also the Padres, but they put the Rockies behind them. And maybe the Diamondbacks, too. It's all fair and love and war in the National League West. Major League Baseball, the great Trevor Rogers, Big C, pitched 6 spotless innings. Corey Dickerson finished a triple shy of the cycle. And the Miami Marlins, Big C, beat the Milwaukee Brewers 8-0 on Monday night. And Dickerson drove in 3 runs, 2 against the Brewers starter Corbin Burns, who is 2-2 on the season, who had only allowed 1 earned run over 4 innings this season, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we look at the early part of the Major League Baseball season, it's amazing how many shutouts and no-hitters have been thrown here in this early part of the year, Charlton.
Yep.
I know everyone talked about the bats and the balls being juiced a few years ago, Charlton, but right now it seems like the balls have tightened up the seams and breaking real viciously, Charlton, and the batters can't find them.
Yeah, they can't find them. Those balls are wound real tight, Big C. It's hard to find those balls when they wound so tight. The way they're doing it right now is all fair and love and war. Speaking of balls wound tight, Big C, the Atlanta Braves, they scored 4 runs in the very first inning. Freddie Freeman added a 3-run home run. The Atlanta overcame a grand slam by Chris Bryant to beat the Chicago Cubs 8-7 on Monday night. The Braves, they were coming off of 2 shutout losses to Arizona and Madison Bumgarner, Big C. The previous afternoon, managing just a single hit over 14 innings. The Braves got mad, Big C. The Braves finished with 10 hits. The Braves pounded Zach Davies for 4 runs, 5 hits in the very first inning. And Travis, they are not 2-run single, was the biggest of the blow, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the Braves, as you said, they were a little upset against the Arizona
beat off.
Diamondbacks. I guess you could say they were snake bit, Charlton. But
Yep.
they came back home, they took it out on the laughable Cubs. You know, they woke them up out of their sleep out there again and beat up on them a little bit. But the Braves needed that win, Charlton.
Yeah.
They have one of the most electrifying young lineups in the major leagues, and they need to get back on stride.
Yeah. You ever been bitten by a snake, Big C? It can't be a good thing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I try to avoid that. When I see him, I get over
I always see sometime there's a friend of mine from India. He likes to watch YouTube videos of guys trying to tame cobras. I'm like, man, that don't make any sense. Find something else to do. It's all fair love and war. When you think about something else to do that makes baseball so fantastic, Big C, quite, in my opinion, I mean, this guy can be such a superstar. He just has to stay healthy. The great Shohei Ohtani, Big C, none since Babe Ruth a century ago. Shohei Ohtani, he struck out 9 after a shaky first inning on the mound, and also scored 3 runs and drove in 2 as the Los Angeles Angels. They beat the Texas Rangers 9-4 on Monday night, Big C. But that's not the major thing. This guy's still not 100% healthy after giving up 4 runs while throwing 28 pitches in the first inning. When he walked to, hit another batter, and threw a wild pitch. Ohtani got the Angels even at 4 apiece, Big C, in the top of the second when he had a 2-run double, and then scored a single by Mike Trout, who had his 4 hits in his return to the lineup. The Japanese right-hander retired 14 batters, Big C. Think about this, 14 of his last 15. And he faced the last 5 innings, Big C, with all of his strikeouts in that span. It was his first big league win since 2018, before Tommy John surgery that kept him off the mound for all of 2019. And then most of last season because of COVID, Big C, and some injuries. Justin Upton and Albert Pujols, the great Albert Pujols, they put the Angels ahead to stay with back-to-back homers. To start off the third, it was Texas starter Jordan Lyles, Big C. Shohei Ohtani settled in and needed only 47 pitches to get through his final 4 innings. To see how he's come back from Tommy John's, to see how he's good batting and pitching, Big C, he's amazing, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, when you talk about a superstar athlete, Charlton, that doesn't get the notoriety that he so deservedly
No.
needs, that's Ohtani there with the Angels. When you think about what he did on the mound, not only that, he comes up to bat, Charlton, and he's a dominant player. When you talk about the modern two-way player, that's Shohei Ohtani. This guy, there's nothing he can't do. But when you have the command on the mound that he had last night, Charlton, and the dominance at the plate, this is a complete player. When you think about the bats in the lineup there for the Angels, playing with the great Mike Trout and Albert Pujols, Charlton, this team can make waves when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, it's amazing how guys can get injured and come back from Tommy John's to start throwing people out, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. Also, when you think about baseball, don't look, it's not the big red machine, Big C, but the Reds are doing their thing. Cincinnati, Jesse Winker's 2-run homer in the 10th inning sent the Cincinnati Reds past the LA Dodgers, defending World Series champion LA Dodgers 5-3 Monday night to snap a 7-game losing streak. Winker led off the 10th by taking Kenley Jensen's slider over the wall in left field, and Alex Blandino, Big C, on second base after making the last out of the ninth. The Reds lead the majors with 34 home runs, including 5 by Winker, who tops the National League with an average of batting .382. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it looks like as of late that the Los Angeles Dodgers don't want to see the San Diego Padres or the Cincinnati Reds, Charlton. You talk about two red-hot ball clubs coming to Chever's regime, taking a chip out of that mountain, Charlton. That's what happened of late with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But when you look at the Reds, they may not get the notoriety, but when you lead the major leagues in home runs, Charlton, you can raise havoc on anybody's roster.
Yeah, I was looking at that big red crew they had back in the day, Big C. Maybe those good old boys are back in the uniforms. It's all fair and love and war. And speaking of feeling red, after getting frozen on ice and then being thawed out, NHL hockey, Big C, NHL and Turner Sports have reached a 7-year, think about this, 7-year rights agreement beginning 2021-2022 season that includes the Winter Classic, 3 Stanley Cup Final Series, the deal worth $225 million annually. It ends the NHL's 16-year relationship with NBC Sports, Big C. The league previously signed a 7-year deal that makes ESPN its primary rights holder starting next season. Turner Sports will present up to 72 regular season games in half of the first 3 Stanley Cup playoff rounds. Each season, Big C, the Stanley Cup Finals will air on TNT in the year in which Turner Sports carries it, marking the first time in the championship round will air exclusively on cable, Big C. The Stanley Cup Final will appear on ABC in the years in which ESPN airs it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you think about all major sports, Charles, looking for their toehold in broadcasting, and here's the NHL. When you think about, they're led by Gary Bettman, who used to be the vice chairman of the NBA. The gentleman that we had prior to him.
Yeah.
But, you know, he has moved the NHL forward, Charlton. It's about exposure, which is all the professional leagues are looking to have now. And now you have 2 exclusive contracts with ESPN and TNT, Charlton. Moving to the cable network allows the league to gain more revenue.
Yeah, it really does. And then NBC is going to have to find something to cover. Maybe they'll cover more golf or maybe NASCAR. If they had any sense, they would cover football practice. Big C, the NFL seems to be higher. You know, NFL Network does it. If NBC Sports is going to lose all their sports, they might want to start covering football practice. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about NBC, Charlton, this is a network that has lost all the major sports. They lost the NFL years ago to Fox, Charlton. They also lost the NBA that they had at one time. So this is a league that is not always taking sports seriously when it comes to broadcasting, Charlton. So, I mean, they have the Olympics that may be canceled this year, so they're going to have to search around to find something that they can get a toehold in.
Yeah, they're going to have to search around. It's all fair and love and war, Big C. Women's college volleyball. Kentucky Wildcats win the first NCAA volleyball title in a 4-set victory over Texas, the Longhorns, Big C. The Wildcats had the nation's most efficient offseason, and when you think about it, their offseason was amazing this year, with the exception of a few hiccups early in the first set and the start of the fourth. They were in the top form with Stumler and sister Maddie. Avery Skinner leading the way. After Texas forced a second match point, Stumler hammered a kill, and the Longhorns had no chance, handling what ended in a 20-25, 25-18, 25-23, and 25-22 victory. If you think about the Wildcats, they were 24-1 on the season, Big C. They advanced on the court and went to their knees in celebration after exchanging hugs, and several players made snow angels on the confetti and it dropped from the ceiling. The Longhorns, not too shabby, they finished 27-2, who were in the final for the 5th time in 12 years, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, once again, Charlton, the SEC celebrates another national championship. You have to be proud of the lady Wildcats there from Kentucky, Charlton, winning their first national championship, you know, in college volleyball. These women are great athletes. Like I said, I admire the athleticism that they play and the tenacity that they bring to the game, Charlton. And it's unfortunate that we don't get a chance to see on a regular basis the great female athletes across American collegiate athletics, Charlton. Maybe NBC, hint, hint, you might want to start picking up more collegiate sports.
Yeah. Hey, Big C, they have an excellent opportunity, and they may not do it, but they really do. They could be the broadcast networking partner for the HBCU universities. They would have so many people that would follow that network, and they would have the chance to put money where they say their mouth is if they were to do what all the other networks have kind of walked away from. Maybe the mothership does it on some, but they could look at HBCU sports and bring money into those programs. I want to close out tonight's Major League Baseball schedule. Minnesota Twins at Cleveland, Kansas City at Pittsburgh, New York Yankees at the Baltimore Orioles, Washington Nationals at Toronto Blue Jays, Boston at the New York Mets. Big C, the Oakland A's and Tampa Bay might be the greatest series that no one's talking about. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's so early in the season. That's one of the major reasons why a lot of people are not talking about them. We can get enamored with these games, but after you get past that 100-game threshold, that's when baseball really starts to matter.
That's when it starts to matter, Big C. The Chicago Cubs at Atlanta Braves. You have Miami Marlins at Milwaukee Brewers, Big C. Philadelphia at St. Louis. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim at Texas. Seattle at Houston, Big C. Detroit at the Chicago White Sox. San Diego at Arizona. Look out for those snakes. Should that good old boy Tatis look out for some real snakes in Arizona? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if you call it tattoo or tattoo, Charlton, because he's been tattooing opposing pitchers all year long after suffering that shoulder separation.
Yeah, he's been doing his thing. They might want to put some snakes in him. His bat is so hot, Big C. Colorado Rockies at San Francisco, the city by the bay, sitting on the dock of the bay. And then you have Cincinnati at the LA Dodgers, and the Dodgers are looking for some revenge. They may just get it in Chavez Ravine. Big C, there's so much going on in sports. It is getting hot in California. Hopefully we'll get some of that rain you good old boys get down south. I'm looking forward to a lot of good things happening in the world of sports. I hope that everybody can stay safe, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe?
Well, Charlton, as we're all sitting around with anticipation on who's going to be the first overall draft pick in the NFL draft, Trevor Lawrence, don't get too nervous about it. Another one of those Southern quarterbacks will take the reins of an NFL team. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. They don't care who goes number one. They don't care who goes number 256. They're always there to support you.
They're always there to support them. And you can be there, too, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as my mama always says, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.